Hi, and welcome to the weekly Woo from October 6th to October 12th. This entire week, we are busy. So we have many aspects each and every day, with the exception of October 12th. That will be a blank aspect day. Doesn't mean it's quiet, doesn't mean it's inactive, absolutely not. We have lots going on the overshadowing energies, plus the each and every day energies aspects going on. So when I first look at the calendar, what strikes me the most is we are pretty much boxed in by two challenging aspects. And when I say challenging aspects, I mean major, what would be considered major in the astrology world, negative aspects. One is going to be a square on October 7th, which is going to be a Pluto square. Those are tough, and they're considered a major negative aspect. And the other one is going to be on October 11th, which is an opposition. An opposition is another tough aspect. And when we're boxed in by these, it means it's a little bit challenging, a little bit problematic. It's a more of a negative type energy on each end. So it's not really reasonably smooth at all. It's bumpy, it's full of hurdles, it's challenged, and it will probably test and try and tax your patience. So just do your best to adjust to things, work with things, roll with things. It's also going to be a severe week of plans being altered, changed. You're going to have to renegotiate plans, adjust plans. Things are not going to be in full alignment. There's not going to be reasonably good flow for plans. So shuffling things around, redoing things, altering things, rescheduling things, that's what's going to happen. So be flexible, be open, be willing. So when I look at this, we are just about right full of all negative, challenging aspects. So there's two major negative aspects, and then the rest are all minor negative aspects. And them are the little buggers I like to mention, because without mentioning them, it completely changes the storyline and the energy of this week. So when I say minor negative challenging aspects, I mean sesquiquadrates, I mean semi-squares, I mean semi-sextiles. In conjunctions, those are the ones that they kind of aggravate, but not on a serious level. But those tend to be the ones that we are looking at when we have plan alterations in every way, shape, and form. So those are throughout the week. We have quite a few sesquiquadrates, and so those I always like to refer as pick a fight. Okay, so that means tension, it means irritation, it means aggravation, and lots of times it can mean confusion. So be sure to check out the facts from fiction and avoid engaging in meaningless conflict, because this week it's not going to take you anywhere good. It's going to be fueled by our full moon in Aries. Actually, it's a super full moon in Aries at 14 degrees on October 6th. So right full of hiccups, right full of challenges. Go with the flow as best you can. Deal with things as best you can. If you need to walk away from an aggravating or a pick a fight situation, please do so. The reason I say it's not going to take you anyplace good right now is we are slowly inching our way to Scorpio season. So this week we will have both Mars and Mercury sitting in Scorpio, so that's an additional layer of Scorpio energy. And remember, Scorpio can wear that Scorpio stinger tail. It says things that usually tends to bring in a negative energy, tends to bring regret in the end. It can be mean, it can be say the violent words, it can say hurtful words, hurtful things. So it's very much a stinger energy, or lashing out is another good description of talk or communication with a Scorpion negative feel to it. And I say negative just because we have so many negative and challenging aspects this week. But I do want to mention we do have one aspect out of all of them. I think we have, we have a total of 13 aspects in 6 days. And so there's only one positive aspect, and there's 12 negative ones. So again, the mix of negative, positive, the mix of negative and minor and major aspects that are negative. So the good day we have is going to be on, it's not necessarily a good day, it's a mixed bag, but there's only one good aspect, and that's going to be hitting on October 8th. So we have a Venus sextile Jupiter. So that's a really, really nice one. And that's where I always say preparation meets opportunity. So that's where you have to be open and willing and looking around for your opportunities or auspicious opportunities to arise. So it's like all the products are sitting there, but you have to take the initiative and take the actions to go put those pieces together. It's like if you were to actually, heard it described like as if you're going to make a cake, and you know what, everything's provided, but you actually have to go and take the initiative and take the actions, the physical actions, to go make it happen, to go make it work. But all the ingredients are sitting there for you to do it. So you have to go do something in order to achieve it. So that's why I would always call it a prep meets opportunity. So that is the best day. So October 8th, but take it as it lands, because every day it's going to be mixed. So the 8th, even though it's a good sextile, we have plans changing, and we have to pick a fight. We have tension, we have confusion, we have aggravation, we have irritation that day, not once but twice over. And so that's why I say, just the good thing about this week, it'll come to an end, it'll pass. Now, when I also want to talk about so many negative, challenging aspects, positive, why do I keep on saying positive? Minor and major negative aspects is lots of times, in kind of a rarer way, they can be quite beneficial. So every time, you see challenging aspects and negative aspects, and you see squares and you see oppositions, they don't always have to play out in a negative fashion. They can be quite beneficial. So what do I mean about that? Or what do I mean? How could that work? That can mean that when you have squares and oppositions, they create a tension, and lots of times it can break stagnation in life. But lots of times we can feel forced to do something before we would actually get off our rear end and actually do something. And it breaks crystallization. So when you're in a point in life where it's stuck or crystallized or just not moving, stagnant, and those are like pressure points where it breaks it apart, where you pretty much are forced to move on to the next stage of life or make a choice in life that breaks that crystallization or breaks that stagnation. And the other way, but most of the time these are not comfortable situations, but we're the better for it after the fact. And like the rare rays, again, it can play out as, if it was a storyline between two people, it can play out as good versus bad. We find out the good, and we find out the bad, but there's always a winner and there's always a loser. So if, depending on the storyline, depending on the situation, that can play out really to your advantage. So something good that's in your favor and where the bad is directed is where it belongs. Often that can be very karmic linked. The other thing, it can be right versus wrong, truth versus lies. So again, depending on what side of the coin you're on, depending on your story, most of the time this would involve an association with people, because it often follows storylines, or like a story of some sort, that could be, he said, she said, and then the truth arises, right? So there was somebody right, and then there was somebody wrong. There was somebody who was lying, and there was somebody who was truthful. So in that aspect, it can be quite beneficial. So often that can happen. It tends to be on a rarer side, and we've all been through those positions in life where we reach that tough spot where we kind of sit there and we maybe avoid, evade, ignore, and then all of a sudden we're pushed into the corner. We are forced to take an action, forced to make a move, forced to make a choice, because things get tough and we do have to take a stand and do something about it. So those, again, when the negative aspects come along, that's what they're there for, right? They actually help us grow and evolve in our life path. So that's the good thing about it. Although it's not comfortable, it's good in the end. And that's kind of the week we're looking at. So, it kind of leads in with a problem, and it kind of is like shifting and filtering and recalculation and restructuring, that kind of thing midweek, and then we're going to be hit with another issue towards the end of the week. So it does give a lot of opportunity to resolve and fix and find resolutions and change paths to make things work and flow. So that there is that, but it takes the flexibility to be able to do so. Okay, so I'm going to go through the planet shifts. So we really don't have a whole bunch of planet shifts this week, but what we do have, and what the aspects we have, it's quite an aggressive, tension-filled week. It's bumpy. She's a rough ride this week. So October 6th, we have Mercury entering Scorpio. So again, that's the second planet into Scorpio. We are slowly creeping our way towards Scorpio season. When I say that, that means the sun entering into Scorpio season, which would be about on the, I think, the 22nd. Yes. October 22nd. Okay, so then we will also at the same day. So October 6th is actually a very big day because that particular day we have the super full moon in Aries at 14 degrees. So every time we have a super full moon, that means the moon is closer to the earth. And so when the moon is closer to the earth, that means it's going to be a higher impact. And when I say higher impact, it's going to be far more influential, means we feel it more. And when we have a super full moon in Aries, and Aries is a fire sign, so it means it's hot, it's aggressive. It can be very, very ambitious, but it can be very, very aggressive. It can be angry. It can be mean. It can be acts of violence taking place because Aries runs hot, but it's also the sign of sovereignty. There's only two signs in the fire signs that are a sign of sovereignty, and they are both fire signs. One is Aries, one is Leo. So we could be looking at that kind of on the political realm, the energy of sovereignty being implemented, okay, or being fought for. Okay, so that will be that. And that's basically all we have going on for planetary shifts this week, which is kind of a good thing because we've got so much going on with aggressive and aggravating and irritating aspects each and every day. Your plans are going to change not only daily, but your plans are going to change multiple times a day. And so why would we want to know this? Well, because it kind of gives us a heads up as to what we're looking at through the whole week. And we can kind of mentally prepare for it. So we're not A, caught off guard. B, we know that we're going to have to do something ahead of time. So we know what's coming and we can kind of mentally prep to be able to zig and zag. So it's kind of like have plan A, B, C, and D and whatever works out. This week we are well, actually we have a lot of activity by a few different planets, but we're basically solely governed by Mercury. And when I say that, what I mean is Mercury is very, very, very active this week. So what does that mean? It means Mercury is you're going to have to be on your game thinking, right? You're going to have to be quick to think, to change, to move, to adjust, to realign things going on. It's going to be about travel. The travel can be long distance. The travel can be here, there, everywhere. Short distance travel in your, downtown, to the city, in your local environment. It's also about learning. It's about taking courses. It's about education. Communication as a whole. So that can be letters, probably not in Canada because we have the Canada Post strike, but we could have news about Canada Post, or we could have news about mail systems and mail moving or not moving. We could be looking at, because I'm not even learning, but it's about letters, it's about text messages, it's about emails, it's about talking face to face. It can be about phone calls, any form of communication you're looking at. And again, it takes in the learning aspect, right? And lots of times when Mercury is so active, it can also involve young people. And I also want to get back to the travel. You might actually not be traveling, but you might be talking about traveling. You might be making travel plans, those kind of things. And so that's how it's very, very active. And for the most part, it's going to be things that you hear about, things that happen, getting news, information, those kind of things that happen this week that are the little key factors that always change your plans from day to day, okay? So keep that in mind. I'll get a little bit more into the Mercury and Scorpio where that particular combination is going to cover, but communication as a whole, and that's where it is. And we do have a Mercury square Pluto. That one's tough. That's what we're leading in with, right? That's going to be on October 7th. That particular one, anytime you see it, the good thing about it won't last long because Mercury moves quick. So it's here for a day or two, then it's gone, it moves on because Mercury's fast in its orbit. So that's a good thing. But it's messing with a serious planet. And so when you have Pluto involved, often that will involve something being destroyed, to be reformed, a transformation. It's the death, it's the rebirth, it's the regeneration. This often it's mostly referred to figurative death, but of course, when you're talking Pluto, that is the planet of death. And so that can be the death, a physical death of a person. And if that's not the case, it could be conversation about somebody who's passed on, but previous. So you could be looking at wills, estates. You might even be planning your will or writing your will, or you might be doing something with estates or those types of things, maybe even funeral plans, something like that. Pluto means business, especially with the square. And it can be about power control issues, right? It can be a power control struggle, and it might just be that spark of self-empowerment you need, that final line that gets crossed where finally you take back the own reins in your own life, where it starts involving growing self-empowerment. That's something else that could be looked at. And again, this would be something that probably has been going on a long time, because when you have it square, because it wants to break that stagnation where you're being held up, stuck, crystallized in life. So that's why I say that. Let's see. And also, this is something else, but this comes more into human nature. And again, we're going to have that fiery super moon in Aries at 14 degrees. That's going to be influencing all week. So this is actually happening the day before the square. So it makes people angry. It makes people upset, frustrated. And that's where, acts of war, acts of violence can break out. And when I see this particular combination, that can actually involve intense or obsessive energy. When you start mixing fire, Aries and Scorpio, that's kind of a mean combination. So you can have acts of violence happen. That can be local, that can be behind closed doors, that can actually be domestic violence, those types of things. It can be acts of war or aggression worldwide, global, like get out in the street, those kind of things. So again, I just will put out a warning with this Aries full moon, super full moon at 14 degrees. It's aggressive. It's going to be impacting all week long. So be highly aware of your behavior. Avoid engaging, because it's going to take you nowhere good. And if these kind of things carry on to where it is acts of violence, it's going to get you into trouble. So just keep that in mind. And so when we have the Aries full moon, it can be a very lovely full moon too. So it's full of ambition. It's full of initiative. It's very, very hot, fiery, energized. It's a go-getter energy. So you can actually flip it around the other way too. It's not always negative, but when you have full moons and new moons, it tends to bring out the bad behavior in people first of all, but it doesn't have to be that way. So full moons are about endings. It's about closures. It's about resolutions, conclusions, culminations. It always wants to end. And full moons are always about full emotion. So that's where the aggressive behavior comes in, especially with a fire sign. And so another good example, every time this year, I like to use this as a good example. So endings, culminations, hot and fiery, right? That's what it's representing. And we got a super full moon. So way back when my dad passed away, would you believe, I remember when this happened, even though it was kind of a very tough time. I remember my dad was actually cremated on the Aries full moon in October back in 2021. So I couldn't think of a better example where a full moon is an ending, because that's definitely an ending, and it's definitely by fire. That's it. That's done, finished. That's an end of a cycle. And like, you couldn't get a more a better example than that type of ending for that type of moon. And I thought it was very, very, well, actually quite interesting that it actually fell on that particular day. So I just wanted to share that with you. So that's just another example of that. Okay, so we are going to move on. Like I said, she's a bit of a rough week. And again, when I say rough week, it doesn't have to be. It's just like, just have a heads up as to what we're looking at, right? So you're not caught off guard. Anyway, we are slowly, again, moving through that transformation energy into basically the end of November, right? So we're slowly working that way. Every year we get this from October into the end of November, where it becomes a complete transformation life, because we are sitting in Scorpio season. And if you think of those dark days when the leaves fall off the trees and the summer has come to the end of the cycle, the leaves die, they fall off, the days are short, the days are dark, it means the completion of the end of that particular season. It's a death, and it will be regenerated and transformed next spring. So that's just another example. That's how the days would work with the astrology world as well. Okay, so again, like I said, we're governed by Mercury, like a very, very busy. And next in line is going to be Venus and Saturn. So it takes on kind of an authoritative, or maybe being limited or restricted, those kind of things. We're going to have Uranus kind of bouncing around here this week as well. So every time you hear Uranus, that's erratic energy. It's here, it's there, it's out of the blue, it's unexpected, it's surprise, shocking, chaotic things. It can be breakdowns, it can be breakthroughs, or it can be breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs. That happens, right? But it's erratic energy, and you don't see it coming. It's like surprise, right? So it's surprise this, surprise that. And the way it's aspected this week, it's going to be unexpected events or unexpected people or surprises that create hiccups in the plans, okay? The good thing is we don't have any squares or oppositions with Uranus, so that's a good thing. But it's going to raise its head and it's going to flex its muscles and let you know it's around. All right. So something else I wanted to mention too is this is going to be a very health-oriented week. And so what do I mean by that? Is because we have active houses, so health houses. So health house, and I'm going to throw in house one because of that. The super full moon in Aries. Aries rules the first house. So every health house in the zodiac wheel is completely lit up. So that means house 1. That means house 6. That means house 8. So what does that mean? That means we are super, super hyper focused on health areas. So that could be we're having health problems. We might have been having health problems for a while and we're looking for a problem or maybe a diagnosis, or we might be looking for help with the diagnosis. You might be finding help as or practitioners or doctors, or we might have found what's wrong. And we might find where we have a resolution. We have medications or we have some sort of routine or some sort of regimen, with health care. It could be medication, could be alternative to fix or address the health problem. Now, that can involve physical health. It can involve mental health, emotional health. And we have a very, very busy 8th house, active house. And so when the active house for the 8th house is challenged, so that's where the square is going to be hitting. So that would be the house. It's a psychology house. It's a subconscious house. So therefore, the mental realm, the emotional realm. But the 8th house is also the house of surgery. And that could be looking at having a surgery done because we have a problem. We could be booking a surgery. We'd be ready to go for a surgery. And all of a sudden, oops, it gets canceled because it's a square and it gets rescheduled. And some of you could be having surgeries during this week, but it's very surgery oriented. So whether you're doing it, rescheduling it, talking about it, rebooking in like a month or 2 from now, but it's also the house of hidden procedures. So the 8th house, that can include miscarriages. It can include adoptions. It can include abortions, those kind of things, anything to do with a hidden procedure. So it's not only surgery oriented, but it tends to be under the water. It's under the table where nobody can see. So having hidden procedures done. So it doesn't necessarily mean abortions. It can be because that is the house it covers. But it could mean hidden procedures. Maybe you're having a dental procedure or a dental surgery done you don't want anybody to know about. You might be having a hidden procedure to do with maybe beauty, like a facelift or something like that. So it can cover that. So the other thing, when we have a Pluto square, that can also involve talks about cancer. Okay, so any type of cancer, so anatomy, it doesn't matter where it is, but the topic of cancer. So you might be having a cancer diagnosis. You might be, and if it's not you, often this can be you find out somebody in your environment, a family, a friend, or somebody has cancer, or somebody's going for a cancer surgery or cancer treatment. But the cancer topic is raised. So whatever that would mean to you, it doesn't mean it's you. It doesn't even mean it's someone in your family, but the topic will be floating around in conversation, okay? So something to be aware of. And so it's very health focused, right? And enough you have no ailments, you have no problems, you might just be looking at improving your health overall. I need to do something about my diet. I need to do something about my exercise. I need to do something about cleaning up my act, getting a better fit body, better health. So it doesn't have to be anything bad. It just can be something that I need to get off my rear end and do something about this to be healthier and have a better lifestyle, okay? Okay. All right. So we are going to be moving on to, I'm going to talk about probably some of the other areas that you're going to be, and I might just repeat some of the things I said, but you never know just how it hits when I'm going off my papers. Okay, so when I talked about Mercury in Scorpio, so again, that can be behaviors, right? That can be talking about death-related topics. So I'm going to go back. That's going to be on aggression. So that's going to be Mercury into Scorpio. So this is where you want to talk about the deep dive things. Every Scorpio person I have ever talked to, and I know a few of them, the ones who are the more evolved, or they're the more the positive end of the spectrum for Scorpio, they will always say to me, they'll be talking to somebody, and their response to people, they'll look at them like they have two heads. They look at me and they say they just don't get it. And I have heard that over and over, meaning they're the deep dive people. Like they are on the motivation level of the subconscious. Okay, so when I say that, they're about those deep topics, those deep subconscious topics, those deep psychology topics, where the average person would be talking about the here and there, and I went and bought this today, but the Scorpio would be sitting back, but why did you do it? What's the motivation? What's the underlying reasoning for that? So they're that deep dive sign. And that's something, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but maybe you might know, but they'll always say, people, they just don't get it. You can talk to them, it's just like drawing a blank. They just don't get it, right? And they're talking about the underlying motivations or emotions or subconscious level topics or areas. They're very, very deep people. And Scorpio is also very desire ridden. Okay, so I mean, that can be both good and bad, but that's something you want to keep control on. So very desire ridden. Okay, so, and the topics of death. I mean, Scorpio rules the 8th house, Pluto rules the 8th house. It's both flaming this whole week with all that kind of stuff. But like deep dive talks, it can be talking about death related things. And again, that can be figurative death, physical death. And it actually might have to do with change and transformation. So that could be jobs, that could be careers, that could be relationships, that could be partnerships. I mean, as far as that goes, that could be a dissolution or ending of a cycle, say, of a business or a corporation, those kind of things. And so when you're talking about the thinking or the contemplating in the mind, so you have to remember Mercury is always about the mind. So where this can go to a real sour place is because it's where the negative side of Scorpio can be jealousy. So like, again, that's the subconscious, that's the emotions, and that's the way a person would be wired to think. So anytime, and the more way Scorpio energy we have, it doesn't always have to be this way, but that's a tough zodiac a zodiac sign to conquer and master. It's the hardest, in my opinion, because it's so emotional and so aggressive. Okay. So well, on the negative side, it can be like possessiveness. It can be like stalking, those kind of things. It can be very sarcastic, right? It can have power control issues, trying to overpower or control another. It's good at playing mind games. It's vindictive. It can be violent, right? Vengeful, very possessive, obsessive, those kind of things. But on the good side, it's very, very passionate. They're very caring. It's a very resourceful sign, right? But when you're talking people's behavior, that's one of the things. Another thing I would point out with the Scorpio energy too, it's like any other water sign. A person needs to be very, very concerned and very aware of the people pleasing. People pleasing is not a good thing. So that will run in just about it does run in every water sign. They're people pleasers. But the good thing about Scorpio too, and the positive light, it's very probing. You want to know, you want to research, you want to investigate, and you want to find out that motivation. So if you applied that on a personal level, it's good. If you put it on a global level, that's good. But that's where the behavior can become out of control. And so it's kind of interesting. Over the years, I like to watch a lot of investigative TV or crime TV, real crimes, those kind of crime cases. And one thing I started noticing over a number of years is a large, vast amount of crimes will occur in Scorpio season, believe it or not. And the second one I started noticing is Aries season. So we're having a mix of that this week, okay? So yeah, Scorpio can be a very, very compassionate sign as well. Very caring. And it's not uncommon to see Scorpio energy helping people transition over to the other side. I've seen that a lot. So because it's basically the sign of death and transformation, stopping one cycle, moving into the next. So that could be figured. Like I said, it can be job, career, but it can also be relationship, but it can also be physical death. And we're coming to that season again. And I mean, you might even be learning something about investigating or those kind of things, or how to investigate things or research things, right? They're very, very good at that and extremely resourceful. And it's also about regenerating energy into something old. And another good example I like to say that is like, if you sell off an estate to whomever, that estate came to a close with a person who's passed on, but then it's been regenerated by the person who bought it. Okay, so we will be moving on. Okay, so this week, some of the topics that can come up, I won't mention again the health house because the eighth house is a health house. It's the house of surgery. But again, it's about the hidden things, okay? The eighth house is the house of death and taxes, sex and intimacy, okay? So other people's resources, so that can be, spousal shared money, that can include alimony, those kind of things, are joint accounts, right? Debt. No, so the eighth house is a big money house. So what does that mean? It can be big money good or big money debt. It can mean big loans. It can mean a loan payments. It can mean taxes owing, or maybe a tax return. It can be about your credit score. Those types of things. It's a big money house. It can also be like other people's money. It's other people's resources. It can be the house of inheritance. It's the self-empowerment house, right? This one is going to be a little challenged. And again, that self-empowerment house just keeps on coming up to me over and over. It's like, if you've been submissive and giving in all the time, this can be the week where that comes to a complete end. And all of a sudden you start taking back the reins of your life, and self-empowerment for you grows like crazy. This can also take in, again, like it's a psychology, parapsychology house. It's the house of marriage, intimacy, sex, those kind of things. Mystery, occult, mystical areas, mysticism. So that's another study that can come up. And the big thing is other people's money. So apply that accordingly. And when you talk about inheritance, it can be inheritance payout. It can be dealing with estates. It can be dealing with wills. It can be dealing with funeral arrangements, all those kind of things. You might be making a will, I don't know. And this can also include insurance. That's something else I want. Insurance and investments. So you might be looking at investments or having investment returns, or you may be buying insurance or having an insurance claim. So apply that accordingly. And so the next one we are going to be talking about, again, it's going to cover some areas where it would be love, it would be relationships, it would be partnerships. Partnerships can be business, partnerships can be jobs. Anything art and beauty linked. So when I say art, it could be artistry. It can be beauty as in a beautician, a hairdresser, an artist of any kind, creating beautiful art that you would hang on the wall. People who reno houses is also a form of art. And this I always include with the Venus realm health again. So that's magnifying that health area big time this week. It can include money. It can include finances and tangible assets and possessions. Okay, so those are some of the areas that will cover. And we do have a lot of Libra energy, and Libra is a cardinal sign, okay? So Libra is all about finding that balance, that peace, that harmony, being cooperative, being diplomatic, those kind of things. But remember, Libra needs to find that inner balance between them and the other. So that could be a spouse, that could be someone you're working with, and finding that inner balance. And when you talk about Libra season, which we are in, that's about becoming solid in your own boots, being solid with who you are, not having to feel the people please. That's another sign that's a people pleaser. So saying no, being right about it, and feeling okay with about it, and being fair to yourself. Lots of times Libras overgive and they run after everybody else. They will agree with everybody else. It becomes back and forth, wishy-washy, until one day they just learn to be solid in their roots and say yes or no and be firm about it and be okay about it, right? And so Libra is about equal give, equal take. It's about sharing, like I said. It's the cardinal sign. So when you have a cardinal sign, and there's a lot of cardinal energy right now, that's going to mean they want to start things. They want to start this. We want to start that. We want to start 20 different things, 25 different things, but it just sits. You start it, but it never really gets anywhere. You start it and you actually never finish. So I would just put out awareness this week is not to start too many things, because not only it becomes cluttered, it becomes a mess, it becomes very frustrating because nothing gets finished. So, and that is kind of a negative energy, right? As much as we like to do those fun things, just don't bite off more than what you can chew, essentially. So that would be something I'd put out there for this week as well. Also, we will be taking in areas of being limited and restricted. Okay, so you might be feeling stuck, restricted, and this can be law-oriented or legal matters-oriented. You can be, court and justice, those kind of things, lawyers, lawyer offices. And it's also about manifestation, right? So you might be manifesting things, and it can be very, very karmic related. So what comes around goes around. It's a cause and effect. You get what you earn type of thing. So that's another energy that's going to be popping up here, right? And time is going to be of the essence. Use your time wisely, and structures, creating solid, rock solid structures. And there's going to be some realignment that's going to be needed in there as well. And again, this is going to be hovering around business. So maybe you have a business, you work for a business, work jobs. So those whatever you're working at, whatever your job is, could be career oriented. You might be seeking a new career. You might be just got into a new career. Might be time to change your career. Management of time, management of skill, or just you might be management in that career path. And this can also hover around dad, father, and father figures. So when I say father figures, it might not be your birth dad, but it could be somebody who was like a father to you. That could be grandfather if that was a father to you. And authority. So when we talk about authority can be bosses. It can be anybody like in a law position, law enforcement. It can be courts, it can be judges, it can be court orders, anything with an authority figure. And that also does represent our political leaders worldwide. So any sort of authority or authority figure on a global level can be out there as well. So that will be a highlight for the week. And this is going to be how you're seen out in the world. So how your public reputation, how people see you, what your label is. So like, are you a teacher? Are you a lawyer? Are you a member of a police force? So that's going to be very, very highlighted. And remember, this whole week is going to take a lot of discipline, and it's about taking responsibility. And like, again, you're going to have structure and great strategy put in place. And if you're not, you're going to have to be looking at that. And again, use your physical time well. Physical time is going to be very important this week. And again, we're like, we always talk about this, but the unexpected events, and it's something you can't prepare for, but shit happens, right? So it's those unexpected things. Now, this is going to cover, and that's Uranus I'm talking about, right? And so that's going to cover 11th house affairs. So when I talk about 11th house, that can be digital currency, okay? Innovation, internet, anything internet-based, internet-linked. So that can be internet problems. That can be hacking into internet platforms, okay? I've seen that. So inventions, it's about innovation. Your friends circles, they can be your friend groups, acquaintances. This also not only is internet, but it's about social media platforms. So whatever that means to you, you might be starting a new social media platform. You might be watching a social media platform. You might be thinking about it. Or internet-based projects, right? So that's something else that could be pop up. And this is, whenever you see the 11th house, that's about groups, it's about communities, it's about committees, it's about large organizations or humanitarian efforts, okay? So that's about having groups that come together that want the betterment for a very, very large portion of the world, if it's not globally. So I want something better for my province. I want something better for my state. I want something better for my country, or I want something better for the world. That's very common in here. And it's also the hopes, wishes, and dreams, the 40 wishes house. So it's about, manifesting wishes. It's also about politics, I will say that. And it's also an air house. Okay? So when you see the air house, let me see. This is actually double amplified. The 11th house is in air house, so that could be talking about air travel, booking air travel, taking air travel, anything to do with air travel. So that could be, problems with air travel, things not working out, having to rebook, reschedule, or hiccups with that area. And it's also the pennies from heaven. So that's a little bit of good luck that comes with that. So this actually lights up. Where are we? The third house is actually activated as well too, because when we talk about Mercury, and that's another air, so that's why I say it's kind of doubly amplified for an air house. So that's all about communications. It's about air travel. Again, might be booking flights, might be getting ready to book flights, anything to do with air travel. Or it can have to do with airplanes, jets, innovation or technology going into these areas as well. It's going to take in siblings, neighbors, people who are close to you, relatives. So what does that mean? That means you might be talking to a brother or a sister, you might be talking to relatives, or they might show up on your doorstep for a visit, okay? When I say relative, it's not your kids, it's not your parents, it's everybody else. So it's communication, it's hyperactive communication. So this can also involve computers. You might be looking at a computer, buying a computer. It can involve iPhones, iPods, iPads. They're interpersonal devices or systems. And again, this double amplified, again, the social media internet area. So again, you might be doing things on the internet. You might be having problems on the internet. That can be hacks. That can be platforms or internet social media platforms being broke into or hacked or hijacked, those kind of things. And it's also about transportation and mobility. So that can also include cars, it can include bicycles, it can include mopeds, scooters, wheelchairs, those kind of things. It's about physical moving. It's also about writing and editing. So you might be writing poetry, you might be writing a book, you might be documenting things, but it's about writing and editing. And if it's already written, you might be getting a third party to edit it. The other thing I will mention, this is basically solely on short trips here, there, all over the place, local, close environment, uptown, downtown, maybe to the closest city. And also, I will put out another warning about gossip. So third house can be carried away with gossip. So that's something else. And we do not need those kind of storylines going on this week with the activity we have, the aspects we have. We don't need to aggravate this week anymore with gossip. So if there's something to be known, be sure you know what you're talking about before you say anything to anybody. No fact from fiction before you even start, because this is an aggressive week. It's full of hiccups. It's bumpy. It's fiery. It's easily aggravated. It's easily irritated. It's easily triggered. And so just be very, very mindful of what you hear, what you say, how you react, how you respond, okay? It's very triggering. It wouldn't take much to get somebody going and doing things that they normally wouldn't do. So like I said, we're going to have that influence of that full moon in Aries at 14 degrees all week long. She's hot, she's fiery, but channel it properly. So remember, you steer your ship, not somebody else. Don't allow someone to throw you a hook of like a fight or trying to engage in fighting or conflict or violence. Walk away if you have to. This has got lots of good activity going to roll forward with or resolve things or hiccups and slowly move forward. But it's irritating doing so, but it can be very, very culminating in the end. But it takes a lot of zigzag effect to get there, right? I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's not going to be smooth, but it can be accomplishing in the end if you channel it right, okay? So that being said, I think that will end kind of what's going on here. Like it's right full of problems, hiccup, but it's not the first time. This is like the rinse and repeat. I shouldn't even say rinse and repeat because it's just steady repeat because we're not rinsing nothing. It's just steadily hovers around problems and hiccups and issues and adjusting and realigning and misalignments and trying to fix and resolve. And we end up doing a 180 in focus by the end of the week, and that's what's going to happen here. But we can still take you good places. And again, remember, just because we have mostly all negative aspects, they can produce pretty beneficial, positive results, but just depends on what side of the fence you're sitting on and kind of what the storyline is involved. So it can often produce wonderful truths coming out, right? But someone's going to be right, someone's going to be wrong. So just keep that in mind. Lots of times, and a week like this, the person who's wrong, that's not going to go over well. So just keep that in mind. All right, so now we're going to bounce over to the health and anatomy. So, just let me dig my papers here. So that is going to take in the mind. It's going to take in the brain area. I just got to find my paper. What do I do with it? Okay, so it's going to take in the bones and the skeleton area. So we are going to be looking at The skin, so you might be doing something with your skin. So it could be skin treatments, treating skin. You might have skin ailments, skin problems you'll be looking at. So skin as a whole, apply it accordingly. Skeleton, so that's going to be bones, any bone in the body. It's about your teeth, ligaments, knees, ear, and your hearing areas, your auditory organs, gallbladder, parathyroid gland, and body protein. And again, this is going, I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again. It's going to take in the genitals, so male or female, the bladder, the rectum, the reproductive organs, that's internal and external. And it's going to take in eliminative and reproductive system. So we're talking about, the bladder, the rectum, the colon, those areas, those systems. So apply it accordingly. The pituitary gland, abnormal growth. So this particular spot, the abnormal growth, it doesn't always mean cancers. They can be benign as well, right? But warts, tumors, moles, birthmarks, cancer, any type of cancer in the anatomy of the body, and skin tags. And it will be about the throat, the chin, the cheeks, the sense of taste, kidneys, ovaries, internal reproductive organs. That's going to include the endocrine system, the hormones for females, well, and males, right? The hormones for both male, female. Blood circulation, and again, this covers the teeth. And this will be the adrenal glands and the lower back. This will be about the lungs, the respiratory system, collarbones, hands, arms, elbows, shoulders, and nervous system. And again, I'm going to cover this again. I mentioned a little bit about this before. It's about the nervous system, the brain, the sight, the mouth, the tongue, the respiratory system. That will include the lungs and any sort of system from the lungs to the area where you breathe in, which would be the mouth, the hands, the arms, the thyroid gland, and this is the mind and the thymus gland. So we talk about mind, this can be about mental health too, mental illness, mental health. This can also include depression. So apply that accordingly. Of course, not all, this is a long list, and so apply it accordingly. This is a totally different story for everybody. And this will also include the ankles and the higher nervous system, right? The impulse over the nerves in the body. And that should pretty much wrap up our health and anatomy. Again, a high focus. It'll be a high focus in all these areas I read because we're in a very, very health-focused week. And again, I will just remind us that the lunar nodes are in Virgo Pisces. That's our health axis, remember? And where's my other paper? And we talk about the lunar node. So one lunar node, and I don't mention this very often, but the lunar node in Pisces and the lunar node in Virgo. So north node is Pisces, south node is Virgo. So when we talk about Pisces, Pisces is ruled by the moon. So that particular area of the anatomy is going to be the breasts, stomach, fluid balance, digestion, glandular secretions, and eye. It's in both eyes, okay? So male and female. So keep that in mind. And Gemini, let me see, we'll find Gemini here. That will involve the hips and thighs, I believe. No, that's Jupiter. Yeah, that will take everything, I think, as far as it's a huge list, right? But that will apply to everybody because it's quite a busy week and it covers a lot of ground. And we have very, very active signs. We have very, very active planets. And again, because we're sitting on that super full moon in Aries at 14 degrees, just remember that is not a good time for surgery because when we have a full moon, that can mean full body fluid, which can be induce high and out of control swelling, and it can also include bleeding or hemorrhaging. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And I think that will pretty much wrap up everything for as far as the health and anatomy. I'm just going to make a quick mention on the overshadowing larger energies. And so we have planets in retrograde: Saturn retrograde, Uranus retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Pluto retrograde, and we have Our Lady Chiron retrograde as well. So we have 4 planets and 1 asteroid retrograde. We are still hovering in that post-shadow eclipse season. So remember, the last eclipse was on September 21st, and every day that goes by, that post-shadow eclipse season gets weaker by the day. It fades away by the day, and I allow about a 2-month time span. So 2 months, so that will take us to about November 21st or so. Okay, so remember, eclipse in or out. People, places, things, stuff. And when the eclipse comes in, those are those non-negotiable changes that we have absolutely nothing to say about. The only thing we have to say about is how we respond. And so they tend to be life-altering, small, medium, or large. And those changes that are non-negotiable are usually permanent changes, okay? And so another good example of this is, I remember somebody's house actually burning down on the full moon total lunar eclipse. Not that that's going to happen to you, it's just an example. But that's how powerful they can be, right? And those changes can come small, medium, and large. So again, we're fading out of that day by day. And so that will wrap up the weekly woo. We have lots going on for October 6th to October 12th. So stay happy, stay healthy, take care of yourself, and take care of each other. And you know what? Make it a pay it forward week, because this is not going to be a good week for probably most people. There will be a few people that will have, reasonably smooth if they're flexible, and those tough, challenging aspects work to our benefit, then that's great. But for the most part, that's not going to happen. So put a smile on someone's face if you can. Make it a pay it forward week, because it's going to be a tough sledding week for most of us, okay? So chat soon. Bye for now.